Welcome to Shoeman's Model Shop, and today we're going to be working on the next generation Enterprise D. We're going to be working on book 2 of the series. One of the things you're going to get when you do this build is this really nice case. It's big. It's a big case, but it's a nice case for holding your screws, and you can pull out the centers and the pieces to kind of configure how you want to. So what I do is I've got some of the screws on the top. Then I just kind of opened up the bottom part here for some tools like some screwdrivers, a Sharpie if I need to write down some notes. And so this is really kind of a neat way to keep your screws all in one place. And like I said, it's kind of neat that it's for this model. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be doing stage 3, which is the deflector, shield, housing, some electronics. You're going to build a battery box. And again, a reminder that's we're going to do part 4 and then part 3. So like I just want to remind you that the assembly sheet is pretty simple. It just, again, will color code things for you, show you a step by step, read the directions, and you should do fine. So let's get building. So we're going to begin the battery box assembly. So you need the battery box, this little guy here, the front cover, some BM screws, and these screws here. So the first thing we're going to install is, so we're going to place the nut here in the back, and it should fit in there. Like, let's see. Maybe we'll do this. And that fits in like so. And then we will take the little cover, put that there, and we're going to use 2 BM screws. And again, to remind you that if you're going to do this, don't over tighten it too much because it is plastic and we can break the plastic. So just, hand tighten it. And basically this is just to hold the nut in there. And there we go. The next step is we can add the batteries, and this is taking AAA batteries. So let me go get those. So this is going to take 3 AAA batteries. So it looks like we've got a negative, and then 2 positives. And then this part here should fit right into that. And we will take I don't know if it slots in there or just presses. Interesting. So I'm going to take this screw here. And then it looks like what that does. I see what it does. There we go. So it snaps into place there. Then we screw that down. And then we just screw that down to hold the batteries in place. I don't, you know, I think this actually is a battery box that's going to go into the ship. So I'm not really. That's just kind of a chunky way of doing it, but that's how they got it. So again, this just slots in to these little slots. Tighten the batteries down to make the connection, and that's it for the battery box, which I'm sure we'll put to good use a little bit later for testing. So next we're going to do is we're going to disassemble a deflector dish. So we're going to need these parts. And it looks like we're going to need some BP screws. So the first part we have here is we're going to put together the deflector dish support, which is this guy here. Looks like it just kind of snaps into place, and then there's one BP screw that's going to go here in the middle. I suppose if you wanted to, you could glue this also together. That screw doesn't want to fit in there. Okay. Next in place is this part here, which is the deflector, and it goes, oops, it will go on the inside. so, and then we're going to use 2 more BP screws. And that part. Then next we're going to be adding, excuse me, the part we built before. So that's going to go with 2 more BP screws. Okay, we've got that completed. Now the next part, we're going to be adding these lights. And again, everything is pre-wired. It all has the little light tabs, so we want to use D. And then we're going to separate these a little bit more because they're going to go on each end here. So we've got it looks like we've got the yellow and green on this side, and they just fit. There's always these little tabs, and then we'll use these little guys to hold them in place with BP screws. And we take the next one, and again we'll split it. Okay, now we've got the lights in there, so it doesn't look like we'll be putting this part in, but it fits in there. So we'll just, if you remember, I mentioned that sometimes you're going to get parts that you're not going to use for a while. So again, just a reminder, get a nice little Ziploc bag to put the parts in so that you can get to them later. So it looks like that completes this part. So we're going to be doing some testing, and what we have is we have the little circuit board, and we're going to be testing the lights here on the deflector dish that we just installed. So first we're going to go, and this is going to go into slot F. And this is going to go into slot D. So that goes into slot D, and you can see that we have some lights. So let's just play around with that and see how that's going to look if we put that in there. Like that. So you see that those lights work. So we've got a successful light test. And next we're going to test the bridge that we did early on in part 1. So this has 3 or 2, so let's go ahead and we'll put in D. See, we've got the lights on the bridge, and our little mod we did looks really good. Remember, originally this was just covered up, so there was no bridge. So what we did is we drilled a hole in there, and I put some resin in there, so that looks really good. And then we will put this in. Looks like that's going to go. And we have the lights in the front. So we have a successful light. And again, just to remind you of some other mods we did on the mods on here. There is one of these lit up. I think it was this one. Again, these are these are vents. Why we light vents, I don't know, but they did. But I pulled that out, so I'm not using that light. So I like that. I think that's really nice. That mod came out great. The parts for step 4 assembly are lots of windows, clear and blacked out windows. We're also going to be installing some life rafts, lifeboats into these parts. And this is actually a metal part, and these are plastic. So again, it's a combination of metal and plastic. So let's go ahead and get started with the windows. Okay, so we have the light boats put in. You saw me do this on earlier, on the earlier part. The part we just showed that was lit up. So next we're going to be installing the windows. So to install the windows, I'm gonna just kind of go with the black windows, and we'll do the clear And on the instruction booklet, they kind of show you where they go. But hypothetically, this is your model. If you wanted to put different windows in, go ahead. I'm sure they changed throughout the show, you know, which was on and off. Maybe not, but again, that's your choice. And basically, they just kind of drop in. And then fit in like so. And this has lots of windows, so this is going to be a big part of building this. And also, you know, I mentioned before getting a nice pair of sprue cutters. You can get those pretty cheap on Amazon. Okay. And you can use a hobby knife too, but I just find that for these little things, the sprue cutters actually are much nicer. Set that in there. There we go. And they definitely give you, as I showed before, lots of windows. Third row is a black one here. And we have two at the end. And that is it for the black windows. Now I would flip it over and show you what it looks like, but basically they're all going to flop out. So I don't want to do that till I put the clear piece on there. So next we'll be doing the white windows, or the clear windows. So we'll start by installing the clear windows, and they just go basically in the slots that's left over. Okay, so that completes all the windows. And again, I'm not going to really flip it over, so I want them all to fall out, and I've got to start over again. So what happens next is then we have these clear parts, which are clear, but they've got a silver backing to diffuse the light. So that next we're going to put that on, and that's what holds the windows in. Let me move these out of the way. Now I will say something real quick. I've been watching World of Wayne and Buckman's Model Mania. They're both working on this. They're quite farther ahead than I am, but I would recommend, if you're really interested in seeing this build, watch those guys. They're a little bit ahead. One of the things that I know that they're both doing is that with the windows, they're gluing the windows in so they don't pop out. I think bigger stages where there's a lot more windows, I may do that, or I may try something else. I've got some other ideas that may or may not work. Same thing for the lifeboat, so that when you get them all in, the last thing you want to do is bump this, shake it, or watch them all fall out. So that's just an idea that I'll have, and if I need to, I'll do that. But for now, this one's I'm not going to do that. The next thing we want to do is we do want to take the deflector, which is, and all these have numbers on them, so you can match it up with what's in the book. Sometimes you don't have to, like the windows. I know what the windows are, but some of these things you want to make sure you get the right ones. So we want to make sure that we're getting the U301AL for left. So that's what we've got. So we also want to make sure that we get, let's see what we need here. Do you want 2 bulbs at the end? Yeah, these are all labeled B, so it doesn't matter which one we do. Again, like I said, the neat thing about this is they're all labeled, and they will have different numbers on them, or letters on them for once, but these are all the same. So we have the 2 bulbs. So what we're going to do is separate them. And what I want to do is, and then they fit, you can see they have these little channels, and the lights will fit in those channels. And they correspond with what's going to go in here. So what we're going to do is, one of the things I think probably would work better because of this is if you put this plate on, and then probably put the lights in. Because right now they kind of show you putting the lights and then flipping it over. Well, they might fall out of the grooves. And those are going to go in these grooves here. So what I want to do here is I just want to kind of start the screws just a little bit. What I don't really want is the windows to come flying out after all that time we put into them. But I don't want to tighten them so tight that we can't get the bulbs in. Okay, and next we're going to put in the bulbs, and they go slotted in here. Then we'll go ahead and tighten these screws down. And that one popped out, so let's get it back in there. Well, those are pretty tight. Okay, and then that's what it looks like with the windows and the escape pods. Then next, it looks like we do the same thing with this one. Since it's pretty much the same as we saw before, I'm just going to go ahead and do that one, and I will get back to you when it's finished. Okay, so we have this one completed. So now we have the two here completed. And the next one we'll do is this half. So I'll go ahead and complete that for you and get back to you when that's done. So this part is finished. You don't put the windows in yet, and you put these in. So the instructions call for adding, I believe it is this one. They want you to add it here, or yeah, like this, so that it holds in the lifeboats. But when I'm watching World of Wayne and Buckman's Model Mania, you end up taking that part off later to put it onto the frame that we'll build later. So I decided I don't want to do that because it's just repeating steps. What I did is I went ahead and I glued these in with a little bit of CA glue, and that'll keep them in place. I think that's the only reason they did that, was to keep these in place. So those are done. And again, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a light test. So we've got our light box again, and that goes into F. And everything else goes into the other ones. And we see that we have lights there. Lights. We have lights. It's alive. And there we go. So now our light test is good. Looks like we have some light leaks. I don't know if this is... We have some light leaks on the black, but that's... We'll see how that goes. I think this is just not push down all the way for some reason, but we've got some here too. But see, I just don't think this is quite pushed down all the way. Even though we did screw it in, the screws are tight. It's just not flapping. So we've got some light leaks, but I think when we kind of put it all together and pieces will go on pieces, that will take care of those light leaks. So that looks good. And that's all for today. Oh, I got one more thing to do, sorry. We have to put this guy on here. And it's just a little sticker. You know, we've done that before, so we'll peel the sticker off. And press it in place. And there we go. So, again, thank you for watching, and we'll get back to finishing book 2 a little bit later.